Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Lying. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Ask any court officer in America, and they will tell you that lying under oath is an epidemic in this country. Perjury is everywhere in the justice system. And in our daily lives, we can count on being lied to almost every day. The Eighth Commandment, no longer an imperative in the USA. And nowhere is this better illustrated than in Washington, D.C. Enter the Washington Post, which runs a column called The Fact Checker. In that column, writer Glenn Kessler analyzes the accuracy of what powerful people say in America. This week, the Post announced its top falsehoods of the year, and President Obama owns 3 of them.
If you like your plan and you like your doctor, you won't have to do a thing. You keep your plan. You keep your doctor. Now that Congress has left, somebody's going to be vacuuming and cleaning those floors and throwing out the garbage. They're going to have less pay. The day after it happened, I acknowledged that this was an act of terrorism.
Obviously, millions of Americans cannot keep their health care plan under Obamacare. Capitol Hill janitors did not take a pay cut, according to the Post. And President Obama totally misled the world in his initial statements about the assassination of the American ambassador in Benghazi, Libya. Also on the falsehood list, the NRA saying, quote, Obama's kids are protected by armed guards at their school. Not true. There are no armed security guards at Sidwell Friends School in Washington. The children do have Secret Service protection, but that's a given. The Post cites a falsehood by Congressman Darrell Issa, who said Secretary of State Clinton denied security for Libya personnel with her signature on a cable. According to the newspaper, Secretary Clinton's signature is on every cable, and it's a stamp. There's no evidence Mrs. Clinton was even aware of the security request. Michelle Bachmann gets a falsehood for saying 70 cents of every dollar spent on food stamps goes to bureaucrats. According to the Post, that's simply false. Secretary of State John Kerry makes the list because he said he opposed the invasion of Iraq. In fact, he voted for it as a senator. Finally, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush makes the list by saying that President Obama closed the U.S. Embassy in Vatican City. The president had nothing to do with that decision. It was to consolidate the embassy with the Italian U.S. Embassy in Rome, and it was a State Department decision based on security concerns. Now, some of those falsehoods were mistakes. I think Jeb Bush qualifies there, but some were outright distortions. No lie, it is a disturbing situation. And that's the memo. Now for top story tonight, how bad is government lying? Join us in Washington, the aforementioned Glenn Kessler, who writes the Fact Checker column for the Post. So first of all, you must be busy. I mean, you know, these pinheads just spouting stuff out every day. I mean, how many people do you have checking for you? And how do you decide what to take and what not to take?
Well, it's just me. I'm the one that does it.
You're the guy. No backup for you? You don't have a brain room like we have here? You don't have any of that?
No. It's a high-wire act every day. And believe it or not, I find something to write about every single day.
Well, that's
5 days a week.
That's a given. But with one man, you, as brilliant as you must be, Mr. Kessler, you can make mistakes. You can, can't you? I mean, I'm surprised. I thought you would have backup for that.
No, I've done this for many years. Covered all aspects of policy and diplomacy, and I like to check my own facts. That doesn't mean I don't make mistakes, and I thankfully have millions of readers that are very quick to tell me if I have made a mistake.
How many mistakes estimate have you made in 2013, this year? How many?
I would say maybe fewer than 5.
All right.
I can't think of them off the top of my head.
So you're doing pretty well. All right, now, of the ones that I mentioned, obviously the president is the decider, as the former President Bush said. And he has 3 there. The janitor one, that's not a big deal, but it's false. But the one about your doctor and the one about Benghazi, I mean, those are fairly significant. Did the president, when he read your column, ever say, hey, you're right, Glenn, thanks for correcting the record, I'm sorry I did this?
You know, I've never gotten a thank you note from the White House. One person told me I was not very well liked there.
Do they think you're unfair? Have they accused you of inaccuracy?
No, they did once issued a press statement that was titled "Fact-Checking the Fact-Checker" when I gave the president 3 Pinocchios for statements he made about the auto bailout. At the same time, the White House, that column I wrote about Darrell Issa and Clinton's signature on the cable, the White House cited that repeatedly when Darrell Issa was holding hearings in Benghazi.
But all politicians do that. If you knock them, they hate you, and then if you give them something, they run with it. So we're not surprised by that. The Washington Post has a reputation of being a left-leaning paper, but you seem to be down the middle, you know, an equal opportunity Pinocchio guy. But the Democrats are in power now, so they have a lot more power than the Republicans at this juncture in our history. So do you scrutinize them more? Do you scrutinize President Obama more than, say, you would a Boehner, Speaker of the House?
Well, the president speaks a lot, makes lots of speeches, so there's material there. I try not to pay too much attention to, whether I'm fact-checking more Democrats or more Republicans. I really try to look at what's in the news today, what are people talking about. I also try to use the column to explain the intricacies of Washington policymaking. It's more than just a gotcha, but if you want to try to find out how the federal budget works or what's really happening with the health care law, I try to untangle the rhetoric that politicians use.
Well, good luck with that, because it's a morass of, Now, final question, Jay Carney has to go out there every day and defend what President Obama says, when President Obama says about the doctor. Now we all know that's not true, and Carney still tries to spin it. Have you been tough on Carney?
Yes, I have given him Pinocchios. He's not been especially happy about that.
All right, does he have the longest nose in the world at this point? Is there anyone? Cyrano? Anyone?
I have been covering politics for so long that, I have just learned that politicians of both sides will stretch the truth if it thinks it will give them a political edge.
Now, look, you and I have something in common. I make a living in the no-spin zone because I do what you do, but in a different way. But there's no shortage of dishonesty coming out of the precincts of power. Mr. Kessler, thanks very much. We appreciate it. Next on the Rundown, Crowley. Continuing now with our lead story, the epidemic of lying in America. With us, Monica Crowley, Alan Colmes, both are Fox News analysts. So does it get you depressed, Colmes, to see that your guy,
my guy,
President Obama,
my guy,
all right, your idol,
Messiah,
is cited 3 times?
It hurts, Bill.
Does it really?
Sure. But, there are lies and there are misstatements. You yourself said on October 29th that you didn't think that Barack Obama lied, but that he just did not want to know or ask about the
Correct.
truth.
And I still believe that.
And
let me just explain, because I know I'm going to get the letters that I'm a pinko or whatever. There are situations in life, and Crowley and Colmes both know this, that you know something bad is developing. And there are 2 ways to do it. You confront whatever's bad, or you run away from it and say, don't tell me, I don't want to know, I think the president is in the latter. However, that doesn't excuse his behavior, because his deceit, falsehoods, whatever you want to say, has impacted negatively on the folks.
Deceit sounds like it's intentional. A lie has intentionality to it. To make a mistake, like Jeb Bush, I think, made a mistake, as you pointed out.
Right.
I don't think he intentionally lied. And I would say the same thing about Barack Obama.
On all 3 of these?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not Benghazi.
Absolutely.
Benghazi. That was a falsehood.
No, what he said, I went back to read what he said about Benghazi both the day after September 11th, when it happened, and on the 13th, there were 2 campaign stops. I can't imagine that terror about Benghazi was not in his mind when
Well, then you have to contextualize it by what happened after with Susan Rice. It was a design. They didn't want to admit that al-Qaeda got the better of them.
The context is that it just happened. Of course he was thinking of
Your
terror.
turn.
Could I address the number 1 lie on the Washington Post list, which is, if you like your health plan, you can keep it, period, which is something he said emphatically over and over again. 2 pieces of evidence to suggest he knew all along that this was not true. 1, he met with Eric Cantor and a bunch of congressional leaders. 2 months before he signed it into law, Cantor asked him point blank, millions of people may in fact lose their health insurance under this law, and Obama said yes. He acknowledged that that was indeed possible and, in fact, likely. Second thing we know is that the policy people in the White House tried to stop the president from making this emphatic statement over and over again, and the political people intervened and said, no, let him keep going with this.
On the Cantor statement, is that on tape?
It is on tape.
We have it on tape? 'Cause
I believe it's on tape. I'm not 100% sure, but I
tomorrow,
think it is.
let's try. If that's on tape, let's try to get it because I haven't seen that.
There was that exchange
I know there's
shortly
a report.
before he signed it into
I know
law.
there's a report of it, but if it's on tape, I'd like to see it. And the second one, how do you know that his?
This has been reported over the last couple of months by major newspapers, the
All right, so
Washington
you're not
Post,
exactly-
the New York Times.
all right.
No, but
Gotta
it's
be
a
careful, though.
widespread reported story
Look.
that the policy people tried to stop this emphatic statement, and the political people intervened and said, no, continue with it.
Would you cede that this kind of deception, and I do believe it's deception, whether it was false or not, it's deception, right? Deception is
Not
deception.
intentional,
Yes.
but
It's deception, and when you deceive, people get hurt. Would you see that it's the same on each side, the Republican and Democrat? Would you cede that?
Well, look, I think many politicians, in fact, do deceive in some way or the other. The problem is that this particular lie affects directly or
Okay, but
indirectly
would you
every single
cede
American.
it's the same in the Republican Party as in the Democratic
But
Party?
it depends what you're talking about. I mean, do I think that
Generally
most politicians
speaking.
deceive? Maybe in certain contexts.
All right. I'm
but
not exactly sure what your answer is there.
There are degrees of
you
lies,
may be deceiving
Bill.
me now. I don't know what you're
That
saying.
was a lie, a lie.
All right,
There are
calm,
degrees
calm,
of
calm,
lies.
There's no doubt that President Obama's popularity, his personal popularity, has
Correct.
taken a hit.
Yes.
Because he's now perceived by the majority of Americans as not being an honest guy.
Sadly.
That's how he's being perceived.
That's the way the media has played it. And I think
No, the
people-
media hasn't played it. They're
yes, it
trying to
has.
protect him
Oh, yeah,
still.
even the New York Times and what you would call the liberal press have done that.
You're wrong there. What killed the president in the honesty zone was the tape. Not the media, it was the video tape. Killed him.
Are you talking about the Benghazi thing?
I'm talking about mostly the health care, but the Benghazi too.
But yeah, but again, a lie has to be an intentional attempt to deceive.
But if it's on tape, the
Yeah, he said
subtlety
it.
of that,
He did say those things.
people walk away
Right.
and say,
He
I
did-
heard it.
He
He's
did not
dishonest.
anticipate the insurance company being bad actors.
All right. And you, last word?
Presidential credibility and trustworthiness is a pretty fragile commodity. American people want to give it to any president, but once it is destroyed
Not easy
by
to
the
get it
president's
back.
own hand, it's almost impossible to get it back.
Right.
And the difference between, say, the Watergate lies or the Monica Lewinsky lies by Nixon and Clinton is that those lies affected a very small group of people. This lie affects every American, and that's why
those
you're
are
seeing
better
his poll
lies.
numbers tank.
Better lies, Combs.
Because they affected less people. Those are good lies. Okay.
No, Combs is being sarcastic.
No,
there,
sarcasm,
ladies and
yes.
gentlemen. Okay.
Look it up.
All right. Thank you both. Directly ahead, billions.